Let's jump right into this explainer because today we are completely reframing how we think about efficiency in high-consequence AI environments. We're looking at something called EP Function 14. That stands for Energy Saving and Efficiency within the Energetic Paradigm. Now, just to be clear up front, we're not talking about basic cost-cutting here or just slapping a cosmetic Band-Aid on AI techs. No, we're exploring a vital, investable operating function that actually brings strict, structural discipline to complex AI work. So let me start by asking you a question. What is the true cost of AI? Seriously, think about it for a second. Because how we answer this single question dictates whether an enterprise AI deployment is actually a scalable, investable asset or just a massive, unpredictable liability waiting to explode. Usually when we think about the cost of AI, we picture things like compute costs, server space, and API calls. But that's an illusion. The reality? The reality is a leaking pipeline. It's wasted reasoning, repeated work, unbounded context expansion, and just a massive amount of human review overhead. The true cost of ordinary AI isn't just about paying for servers. It's about all that literal human and systemic effort lost when an AI simply loses focus. All right, here's our quick roadmap for today. 1, we'll cover the hidden cost of AI. 2, enter EP Function 14. 3, the demand and market need. 4, execution and stopping the drift. 5, scalable AI control. And 6, we'll wrap up with a final investor takeaway. Okay, starting with Section 1, the hidden cost of AI and how we are leaking the energy pipeline. Let's look really closely at where the system actually breaks down when AI generation lacks structural discipline. Imagine raw input entering a system. If that generation is uncontrolled, it leaks energy through 5 major structural loss channels. We've got token waste, attention waste, search drift, rework, and then the absolute most expensive channel of all, human review cycles. When complex AI work isn't disciplined by structure, these leaks literally multiply your costs long before a final output is even generated. Moving to Section 2, enter EP Function 14, the structural control valve. So how do we actually stop those leaks? Well, Function 14 isn't just some abstract philosophy. It's a strict operational valve designed to prevent reasoning drift right at the start of the path. It fundamentally changes how a task is framed before an answer is produced, how it's checked during production, and how it's judged after the fact. It takes a known weakness in AI and converts it into a concrete, controllable operating capability. Now, getting this right requires a total mindset shift. We have to move away from asking, can the model say something plausible? I mean, sure, that's fine for a casual chat. But instead, EP demands we ask, does the work have the structure required for a high-consequence environment? Asking that reduces ambiguity and stops uncontrolled expansion right at the source. Let's get into Section 3, demand. The market need and exactly why serious environments absolutely require structural control. This brings us to our first investor traction test, demand. We need to look at why enterprises are practically screaming for this level of control. The bottom line is high-consequence environments just cannot tolerate loose reasoning. Think about enterprise workflows, legal review, financial analysis, governance systems, research pipelines, autonomous agents. A casual chatbot can afford to drift, right? But in these serious settings, an output is only valuable if it can survive rigorous review by lawyers and decision makers without causing operational failure or liability. They don't need persuasive text. They need structurally reliable work. And here is the core reality of the market. Demand appears when a repeated failure becomes expensive. As AI moves deeper into these really high-value workflows, the demand for Function 14 skyrockets. Why? Because the cost of uncontrolled generation, the drift, the hidden contradictions, the unsupported claims, it all just becomes too massive to ignore. So the deeper the deployment goes, the more incredibly valuable this structural control becomes to both buyers and investors. On to Section 4, execution. Stopping the drift and activating the control mechanisms. So that leads us to our second traction test, execution. It's not enough just to say the function is important, right? We have to see how EP actually performs this control under pressure in real-world tasks. Think of these 5 steps as crisp, stabilizing filters in the system architecture. EP uses boundary, routing, representation, deduction, and memory to drastically cut down on unnecessary generation. It defines exactly what the system should do, what it absolutely must reject, what it needs to check, and what happens when an output fails. These steps lock the work onto a valid path and make the whole workflow totally repeatable. And when you do that, the transformation is pretty stark. Raw AI generation gives you hidden reasoning, a fluent but maybe hollow style, and failures that get hastily edited away. But when you push that through the EP filters, you get an inspectable reasoning path and a much clearer object of work. And crucially, when a failure does happen, it isn't just swept under the rug. It's classified and actually used to improve the very next execution. That is execution traction you can literally measure. Section 5, Scalability, Repeatable AI Control, and how we expand without losing our operating logic. So the next question is, how do we take this beautifully stabilized pipeline and expand it across an entire enterprise without losing that core operating logic? Well, because EP solves a structural failure rather than a narrow domain-specific one, it scales wonderfully as repeatable modules. We're talking quality gates, templates, checklists, agent policies, workflow controls, and enterprise AI operating rules. The surface content might change from, say, a legal document to a financial model, but the function stays the exact same because it's controlling a structural failure that pops up again and again in complex AI work. I want you to consider this insight. Scalable value usually comes from a repeatable mechanism, not from isolated consulting brilliance. That quote right there is everything for an investor. It proves that Function 14 isn't just some bespoke service where you need a team of expensive experts every single time. It has a direct, disciplined path toward true productization, creating a common EP standard across totally different forms of work. Wrapping up with Section 6, the final investor takeaway, and building a system of reliable functions. Tying all this architecture together fundamentally changes the investment landscape for AI. Let's summarize our 3 traction tests. First, market pain. Ordinary AI fails when it's deployed in serious conditions. Second, executable method. EP operates directly inside real tasks using strict structural filters. And third, scalable logic. The function actually becomes a repeatable enterprise component. Together, these prove that EP provides the vital infrastructure you need for deductive, auditable, and operationally useful AI work. Ultimately, energy saving and efficiency is investable because it converts a recurring AI failure into a repeatable EP capability. Think about it. When you integrate EP Function 14, you aren't just shaving a few fractions of a cent off your compute costs. You are structurally guaranteeing the reliability of your outputs. So I'll leave you with this. In a high-consequence environment, can you really afford to let your AI generate answers without a structural control valve? Or is it finally time to stop paying for the illusion of work and start investing in the reality of precision?